Hello everybody, it's me Kirk Mastin here in Ballard, Washington. It is a beautiful rainy day and I am here to enlighten and enrich you with everything you could ever want to know about Master Labs presets and all the cool stuff we make. And my goal today is to help you figure out which preset is right for you, which pack is right for you, which is going to fit your work correctly, which product is going to amplify and elevate your aesthetic to where you want it to be, and so that you can get the look that you want for your client and all that really good stuff. Yeah, let's just jump right into editing. So one of the questions or discussions that we see in the group quite often is, what is the difference between the original packs and the push packs? So we have a Portra Original and Portra Push pack, and the Fuji Color Original and Fuji Color Push pack. So they're both different, they have different purposes. I'll give you a 1-minute explanation of what pushed is, and then I will just show you, because we learn better by seeing, because we're visual artists. So pushed essentially means the film, the analog film, is pushed in development. And you would do this to shoot, say, 200 speed film at ISO 400 speed. So say, goes way back, say you're shooting in a dark place or it's like overcast and you need a higher film speed, you would just rate your 200 speed film as though it were 400 ISO, so that's the sensitivity of the film, and then you go to your lab and you'd say, please push it 1 stop. And what they're doing is they're artificially making that 200 speed film a 400 speed film by developing it a little bit longer in the chemistry. So for practical purposes, what does this mean? If you're just like, film, blah, 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 who cares? The practical reason that you would do this and why there's a difference in the look is that when you push film, you add contrast to the image and you change the color palette. So in general, pushed films have more contrast and they have a shift in either the shadows or the highlights or both. And when I say shift, I mean a shift in the color. So in the Portra Push pack, you would take all of the Portra films, and when you push them, their shadow usually shifts into being more red. And you'll see that. There's a little more red magenta in the shadows. When you push Fujifilm, the biggest change that you'll see is that the highlights go a little bit more pink or magenta. And a lot of photographers like these looks as part of a style that they shoot in. So it's not really for getting like a faster film speed, because if you're shooting digital, it doesn't really matter. You can go up to like ISO 90 billion now with the latest cameras. That's like not even important at this point. But if you were shooting film, it did matter. But now it's just for style. Okay, so that's my little explanation, and now I will show you. So the Kodak Everyday Original pack, just to quickly go over it, it's for all different skin tones, most kinds of lighting, although it's better in a natural or dark and moody edit, meaning not a super light and airy edit, but a lot of people do it anyway. Still looks great. It's really great for almost all skin types. It is better for Caucasian skin than any kind of darker skin in general. I've gone over this like 90 million times. There's actually a video just on skin tone that you can watch that's another live edit. So if you want to go deep into skin tone and getting the right preset, that's the video to watch. But in general, Portra is a great all-around film. This is Kodak Everyday. Let me go to the Portra panel. Okay, here's Portra Original. So Portra Original, great all-around film. Portra Pushed is an edgier look. It's like a fashion editorial, more hipsterish look. It airs more on the dark and moody side if you want a dark and moody edit. And Portra Original's a little softer, lighter. It's good for family portraits, something lighter in general. So let me show you some examples of that. All right. So all these images are from our community, which is awesome. Keep submitting them. I love them. This one is from Maria Turnbow. She did not specify what preset she wanted, so I'm going to use this as an example to show you the difference between Portrait Original and Portrait Pushed. Because this entire episode is about which pack is the one that fits your style. So, with Portrait Original, you're going to get a nice, like, soft, even look in general. Portrait 160 is the least saturated. If I apply it and just increase the exposure, you can see. I have to increase the temperature just a little bit too. But all of our presets are really just 1 or 2 clicks. The main thing when you're applying any of these presets is you want to get the exposure and the white balance dialed in. That's where your picture is going to shine. But you shouldn't have to tweak a bunch of stuff in the HSL panel or anything like that. And if you're like, HSL what? That's just this little panel down here. I'll show you. Maybe it's up here. Where is it? We got the transform. There it is. Okay, way at the bottom. This panel down here where you can change all of the hue, saturation, and luminance for different color channels, you shouldn't ever have to touch that. But you can see in this photo, I edited this photo quickly with just Portrait 160, increased the exposure, and warmed it up a bit. This whole pack, the entire Portrait Original pack, is perfect for conditions like this where you've got nice, even lighting. Skin tones are in general towards Caucasian, and you want a softer look. You're not looking for something super edgy. I could do Portrait 400, it's a little more saturated, as you can see when I rolled over it, or Portrait 800, which just has a little bit different color profile. The greens are a little bit cooler. The skin is kind of in the middle, but they all look really, really good. So, let me know if you have any questions if I'm going too fast, because now I'm going to dive into the pushed look and show you the difference. So I'm going to just keep it on Portrait 400. This is the one I use the most out of this pack. I'm going to duplicate this photo. And now I'm going to go into the pushed version of this pack, a totally different product. So just so you know, they're totally different. You would buy them separately. They each have a lot of things in them. But if you're wondering what the difference is, if I go into the Portrait Push pack and I do, let's say Portrait 160, this one really shows it. Portrait 160 push 2 stops and increase the exposure and the white balance, just like I did in the other photo. You can get to more of kind of, I don't know, a moodier look, I would say. Let me just hold these up here for you to see the difference. We'll wait for that to render. Okay. So you can see that the preset that we chose actually affects kind of the overall mood of the photo. On the left, we've got a Portrait 400 edit from the Portrait, the Portrait Original pack. And on the right, we've got Portrait 160 push 2 stops from the Portrait Push pack. And you can see in the shadows, especially, there is kind of a red-brown tone in the shadows and in her hair. Let me zoom in a little bit more. Whoops. So pay attention to this area here in the reeds, their skin tone and her hair. And if I go to the Portrait 400 version, you can see that it's very neutral. There's no color cast in the shadows whatsoever. Everything is super, super neutral. So because of this, the original packs lend themselves to a light and airy look in general. The push packs are for that edgier, more color shifted look, which would be good, again, like on something that's more fashion-y. Let's see if I have anything in here to show you. I haven't even really looked through these yet. These all just came in. Let's see here. This might be good. Something like this. Yes. So on a photo like this, I would tend to go towards a push look. It just kind of fits the vibe of it. So here is 160 pushed one stop. This is from the Portrait push pack. Here's Portrait 160 pushed two stops. And you can see how it did that red shift. Here is Portrait 400 pushed one stop. It's a little bit different than normal Portrait 400. I'll pull up a side by side. Here's Portrait 400 pushed two stops, and then Portrait 800 pushed a stop, and you can see that there's a huge shift there. There's a green in the midtones, a little bit of red in the shadows, and then Portrait 800 pushed two stops is looks very much like presets that were very, very popular about, not that they're not good now, but very popular about 6-7 years ago that I shall not name, but they were based off of more of this extreme pushing of film. But you get that with Portrait 800 push two stops. Let me see. This might be a good one to show the differences in too. Do you have a question? Yes.
A quick one, which I think will tie into this. Julie Howell asking, she said, by using shadow hard or soft, will it make push color closer to the first edit, which I think was for a previous image.
So Julie's asking if
you're using push pack and
yeah.
you use shadow hard or soft, will that make it closer to one of the other packs? I think that's what she's asking.
So Julie basically wants a pushed portrait look to look like the regular portrait look, maybe because you've bought the portrait pushed pack and you wished that it looked like the normal pushed one or the unpushed original one. I'm going to take a guess here. And you want to make one look like the other. The answer is no, they'll never look exactly the same. There's just too much going on. If you did want a lighter look from a push pack, then I'll show you how you can get as close as possible. Let's do Portrait 400 pushed one stop. Let's see. If I was going to make this look like regular Portrait 400, first of all, let me pull them up and see how close I can get. All right. Okay. So we're going to reset this one really quick, and we're going to do Portrait 400, and then I'll pull them up and compare them. Okay, there's Portrait 400. I'm going to do just a few corrections to make it just a normal edit. So that's exposure. It's a little bit pink. Drop that down. And I'd say that's a nice Portrait 400 edit. I'm also going to do lens correction. Yeah. All right. So now I'm going to try to match the Portrait 400 pushed version with the unpushed version. And hopefully this answers your question. I think this is exactly what you're wanting, I think. So let's go to the Portrait pushed. So it's already Portrait pushed, 400 pushed one stop. I'm going to do the same thing, do lens correction on. I'm going to do exposure and a little bit of white balance and tint adjustments to get it as close as I can. Yeah, it's kind of close. And then highlight soft. No, that's not going to do it. Maybe all soft. That's about as close as I can get it. You can see that I can wrangle it kind of closer, but if I was to I'm going to show you just one image and then go back and forth, like the image on top of the other image, and you'll see that they're really different, even though I can get them kind of close in this view. In general, the pushed version has a lot more contrast. You can see it in the trees and in her hair, inside of her face. The skin tones are not the same. The original, Portrait Original 400 has more luminous, clearer skin tones. Portrait 400 Push One Stop has really nice skin tones, but darker because, again, the push pack is built for a dark and moody look. So they just kind of don't go to the same spot. If I was to put them on top of each other, I'll just flip them right here. So this is them side by side. And if you look at them this way, they look close. But if I just flip right over, you can see that they're not the same at all. But that would be my approach, would be basically to use all soft. Yeah, and then do your best with temperature and tint and exposure, but ultimately they're different looks. And maybe this helps explain the difference to everybody so they can see them a little bit better. If I was going for like just something light and happy, I would probably stick with Portrait Original. If I'm looking for something with a little more mood, then I would do something with pushed. So, for example, this photo by Howard Treby, who wanted Fuji. So I'll do this in Portrait and Portrait Push so you can see that, and then we'll do it in Fuji and segue over to that. This photo lends itself to a dark and moody edit just by the way it is shot, and not because it's kind of underexposed. So even if I bring it up, it's just the lighting in this and the mood, everything about it. This person's not standing in a field in California with like backlight, so this would look really good pushed. There's Portrait Push 400 one stop. Let's do, let's just do that one again. Lens correction on. I'm going to increase the exposure just a little bit, and I'm going to do slightly warmer edit. When I edit, I'm looking at kind of neutral areas to see if I've gone too warm. I could pull up this temperature slider up higher, but then I look at his hair and his face, and it's just getting too warm for me. So I bring it just down just a hair until it feels kind of neutral. As far as like tint goes, you can slide that back and forth just slightly and see if you can dial in the skin tone exactly how you want. One thing you can do with tint, because it's a lot harder for people to see, is look for a shadow area on a neutral surface. So like this door is white. If I go over to too far on the magenta side of the tint slider or too far on the green side, you can see it appear in the shadows first. So I'd say like probably right about there. This photo really lends itself well to a push look. And here is the before and after. So Howard wanted Fuji. I'm just going to guess that that means Fuji 400H because he didn't say pushed. So let me go back to my slide here. So Fuji Original, this pack has 3 films in it that are great for a light and airy look. So Fuji 400H is like the original light and airy preset that started everything. Like it comes from Fuji 400H, shot and overexposed in a sunny setting. This is a really popular look, like down in Southern California especially. It kind of took the wedding world by storm for, gosh, like probably 6 or 7 years. It was like the look. It's light and airy, sophisticated, really nice skin tones. And it looks really good on all types of skin tones, from Caucasian to people of color, to Asian skin tones. Looks great on everything. It is, however, not a dark and moody preset or style. It just doesn't look good dark and moody. And neither did the film. You would never shoot Fuji 400H dark and moody. In 20 years, I never really saw anyone shoot it that way. And it doesn't translate well to digital. However, almost nothing can beat Fuji 400H when it comes to light and airy. So if you're deciding between, in general, what kind of style do I want to make with these presets, if you are a light and airy photographer, Fuji Original is the pack that you should get first. There's no doubt. If you're a dark and moody photographer, I would say Portrait Pushed is the pack that you should get, no doubt, like your first pack. And after that, I don't know. Just like rolling them off, like I would be like Kodak Every Day would be my second one. Then I would throw in like the black and white one, the Ilford, it's amazing. And then if I wanted to really kind of start specializing, I would get like Fuji Pushed, Portrait Original, yeah, probably in that order. So if that's helpful at all. Okay, so back to Howard's photo. In a nutshell, Fuji Color Original, light and airy, that's what he wanted. I'm going to duplicate this and show you why it doesn't really work for this photo as well as the push look that we just did. Okay, so here's Fuji 400H. I'm going to do the same steps, so lens correction on, increase the exposure. And warm it up just a tiny bit. It honestly doesn't look bad. It doesn't look bad at all. But this is not where Fuji 400H shines. So as you can see, I think I just feel that the mood of this photo is suited to a dark and moody look, which is on the left. You can make it work with Fuji 400H. Like I said in the beginning, or just now, Fuji 400H is like maybe the pack I would start with for almost anybody if you ever shoot light and airy at all. It's just so good. But in this case, I think the push pack, Portrait Pushed, that pack looks best on this type of photo. Let me find one that's built for light and airy. Let me see. I wish I had just like a classic wedding. Oh, maybe this will work. Okay, this is a cool photo. All right, so this is from Crystal Diaz, who wanted Ilford. Okay, I will do that in a second. But this is the kind of photo that shines with Fuji 400H. They're in really like nice neutral outfits. They're in front of a background that's neutral. There's a little bit of vegetation. I have another video completely about getting the light and airy look. So if you're enjoying this, go watch that one. You can find it in our library. But this hits all of my criteria for being set up perfectly for light and airy. Really nice, even light. They're wearing the right kind of clothing. The background is really neutral. So if I use Fuji 400H on these guys, so I apply it and just increase my temperature a little bit, you have like basically a two-click like perfect light and airy look. Like it can't get any easier than that. Like that is fantastic. I'm going to crop it to 4:3. Maybe crop in a little bit more because their feet are missing. And cool it down just a tiny bit. But there you go. That is like a perfect light and airy look. Like this is like the definition of the Southern California style of wedding photography that's been very, very popular. It's the style that I shot in for the bulk of my career, and it looks really good. I want to just go over to this photo too and do Fuji 400H because I just love this photo so much. And there's such a wide variety of skin tones in here too. It's amazing. So Fuji 400H, warm it up. I'm going to do lens correction on. I did this because I noticed immediately that this photo was shot wide open, and it's actually shot at f1.6. And anytime that you shoot a lens wide open, you're shooting through all of the glass in the lens. And that usually means that you're getting distortion and vignetting from the edges of that glass. If you were to shoot it, say like f2.8, you would automatically be only shooting in through kind of the center of the glass, and you would start to lose that distortion and vignetting. However, it's the only way to get that really shallow depth of field, so a lot of people do it. I do it myself too, and Crystal Diaz did it as well to get this beautiful shot. But that is where lens correction tools come into play, which come with all of our packs. So I just hit lens correction on. This is the 3-click edit. Fuji 400H, increase the temperature, lens correction on. Looks great. In fact, I would maybe bring up the exposure a little bit more, like to about there. So yeah, there you go. A beautiful film-like Fuji 400H edit. Now, if I were to edit this with a pushed look, so let's go into the Fuji push pack real quick. You're going to start seeing shifts in the highlights, just like I talked about in the very beginning. So here is Fuji 160 NS pushed one stop from the Fuji Color push pack. And as I hover over it, you can see that the entire image gets a nice kind of peachy glow over it. And the highlights are nice and creamy and smooth. There's a little tiny bit of pink in the highlights. You can see their skin tones are a little bit warmer. There's more contrast. Now if I go off of it again, there is your regular Fuji 400H. Very different looks. They both fall in the light and airy camp, but the Fuji original pack with Fuji 400H fits more squarely into this camp than, say, a push look. However, the push looks are flippin' amazing. If you want a little bit more color, this is the way to go. So there's 800Z push one stop. Now you're getting a lot more pink in the highlights and a little bit in the skin tones. Fuji 400H pushed one stop. Again, you're getting that nice shift in the highlights. And that is like the beauty of pushing film, like real film also, is that you can get a completely different look out of the same roll of film. It's awesome. If you don't shoot film already, please do it. It's so worth it. Really, the main reason that I even started Mastin Labs like a long time ago, the main reason was that I wanted to help save film. And the only way to do that was to expose people to film that would never shoot it otherwise, like actual film. And this, the way I wanted to accomplish this was to make the first presets that actually matched film in the way that I shot it. So I wasn't shooting it underexposed or muddy or anything. I just wanted a really clean film look. That's how I shoot film. So I started Mastin Labs in my house. Now we're a huge, wonderful crew of people. But the goal was to get people interested in film by showing them what it looks like with their digital images, and then kind of providing film education on the side, kind of on the sly, and get them into shooting real film. And we're seeing that in our group every day, and it's totally awesome. So, okay, I'll get off of that bandwagon for a second. Crystal Diaz wanted Ilford, so let's jump into that pack really quick. Okay, so Ilford is like the unsung hero of our entire product lineup. If you like black and white at all, this pack is for like the black and white aficionado. It is for those that love character in their grain. They love to see different tonal ranges that are expressive and dramatic. This pack has it all. It has Pan F, which is Ilford's most, contrast. It's not really contrasty. It's got the widest tonal range and the deepest tones of any of their black and white films. It's beautiful. After that, there's HP5, which is kind of their middle of the road contrast film that is very similar to Tri-X. It's just great for all around everything. It has kind of a medium grain. And then the last film in their lineup that we have in this pack is Delta 3200, which is a very special high-speed film that's got really chunky, expressive grain and glowing highlights and really nice skin luminance. You get a huge range of looks with this pack, and it is not in any way the same as just hitting convert to black and white on your photo. If you think that's what black and white presets are and that's all they are, it is so much more than that. And the more you dive into it, the more you'll fall in love. And then on top of that, there's other really cool tools that I'll show you in the pack. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit or crop in so you can see this a little bit better. But here is Pan F. And you get really, really nice black and white tones, like really deep, all the way across. Whites are white, blacks are black. The mid-tone is a little bit squished. I mean, it goes fast from one tone to the other, but it's really dramatic and really nice. And the grain is like perfect. I especially love black and white if there's a little bit of motion blur in the photo. So like both of these people are not exactly sharp. They're moving a little bit too fast for the shutter speed, but I love how that looks in black and white. If you wanted something less contrasty, there's HP5. And it's got that nice classic neutral contrast range. It's not crazy, it's not off the hook. This is like classy and classic. This type of black and white is what you would print and frame and hang huge in your home. Like take your 5 favorite wedding photos, put HP5 on them from the Ilford pack, have them printed on really nice rag paper, have them framed and put up in your living room, and they're gonna look amazing. Then there's Delta 3200, which has you know, very thick grain, but it is just so beautiful. And it's especially beautiful if you have really large, simple subjects. So let me find something for you. Okay, let's do this portrait in Delta 3200. So I love it with portraits, especially if you zoom in even a little bit more or crop in, not zoom. There you go. So Delta 3200, it just looks fantastic. And that's just like a one-click edit. Yes, there's a lot of grain, but if you're really into black and white, grain is the soul of the film. Grain is what you're after. So that's the main thing I worked on with this pack, was to get the grain right, and I love it. One other thing that's really cool about this pack is that I included color filters that you would have in traditional black and white photography. So when you're shooting real analog black and white film, you can put a red filter, a green filter, a yellow filter. There's many different color filters that you can put on your lens, which actually change how the tones are represented in that film when you take a photo. Even though it's black and white, the way that the colors are changed before they get to the film affect the tonal range of the final image. And you can make a photo look incredibly different by using a color filter when you're shooting black and white. This is what Ansel Adams did to get those really, really dark skies. Like if you've ever seen the photo Moonrise over Santa Fe, it looks like it was taken at night, but it wasn't. It was actually taken with a very, very deep, deep dark red filter that made the sky look black. It changed all the blue to black. And that is the power of color filters in black and white. So this lady is wearing a very colorful robe, and I can show you the effect of these filters just on her. So like with a red filter, you can see it changes quite a bit. There's a lot more contrast on her arm, of all places. Let me change to Pan F real quick, where there's less grain to look at. And that looks so good. Man, that looks so good. Okay. Anyway, that is like why you need Pan F. Like, it is so good. One click. Okay, so red filter, it changes the tonal range completely. It actually brought a lot of luminance to her skin and made the background lighter. Green filter, it changed this magenta part of, or purple part of her robe, and really brought her out from the background. So that's with the green filter. And then the yellow filter is traditionally a skin filter. Yellow makes skin look better. So it does this by increasing the perceived luminosity of skin in actual film. Like if you're shooting real black and white film, a yellow filter is like Photoshop for skin. And it comes across in the presets as well. In fact, with the yellow filter, the skin is luminous enough now that you can't see any wrinkles or anything at all in the skin, any kind of blemishes. I could even bring the exposure down and you wouldn't see it. Totally, totally different looks. Whew, okay. So hopefully that helps you decide which pack you want. I'm gonna do a few really quick edits just to get through a bunch of photos. And do we have any questions before I do that?
A few. Let's see. Mark Holstein says, "Hi Kirk, what is your personal favorite, most used preset for your own work?"
Okay, great question. So what's my personal favorite preset? I come from a more light and airy background, or neutral. So my favorites by far are Ektar from the Kodak Everyday Pack. Like, I love that film. Basically, anyone who tries it is addicted to it. If you go in the Mastin Labs community, it's like Ektar Nation in there right now. I love that one. I love Fuji 400H from the Fuji original pack. That is our biggest seller of all time out of anything we've ever made, and there's a good reason. So Fuji 400H, Ektar, and then Pan F from the Ilford pack. Those are the ones I go to. They're awesome. I love them. Yeah. Any other questions?
Yeah, Abdul Shah was asking he says, if I wanted to introduce a film camera to my weddings, and then in parentheses, without getting the infamous Contax 645,
Yeah.
what camera would you recommend when shooting with Fuji original film.
Could you grab me that Pentax real quick? Thanks. So Abul Shah was asking, what film camera should I introduce to my wedding work to get that light and airy Fuji look? I would say at this point in time, hands down, the Pentax 645 is the best deal out there. It has all the look of a Contax 645 without all the breaking, and like the Contax 645. I hate that camera. I mean, it's great. You can shoot at f2. It's great. I would be like, big whoop. But really, like, without any of the headache, you can get all of the look with the Pentax 645. The aperture is 2.8 instead of f2. But for you tech geeks out there, you'll know that since you're shooting on such a big negative, so the space is so big, the size of the negative is so big in relation to the lens, that 2.8 is actually like shooting at 1.4, I think, or 1.8 on a 50. So anyway, this 75 millimeter lens on here, 2.8, is like shooting a 55 millimeter 1.8 or 1.4 lens. That is plenty. That is like as out of focus as I need to go personally ever. So this is the camera I would start on. I don't know what these cost now, but we had almost 20 of these at Mastin Labs for testing our last few preset packs that we made. We had 20 of these, and I bought basically every one in Japan that was available on eBay, and I think I paid like $300 or less with a lens. So gosh, you can't beat that. That's amazing. You can't buy anything for a digital camera for under $300. This is like an entire system, and it's going to get you a Contax look. So that's my answer. Yeah, do it. The price is going to skyrocket on these. Look at how nice this camera is. Actually, it looks like a Seiko watch attached to a camera, but it's really easy to use. It's not too big, and it's beautiful. If you go to my Instagram, Kirk_Mastin on Instagram, that's just my own little personal one, you can see like 1 billion portraits I've taken with this camera. And you can see for yourself if you like them. I love it. So, all right, we'll do a few edits and then we'll close this out.
One more question.
Oh, okay, one more question. Yes.
Alexis says that Ektar frequently seems to turn my skin's orange, but if I adjust the temp, the rest of the tones appear to go cool. Can you show an example of that or fixing that?
So the concern is, and who's it from?
From Alexis.
Okay, so Alexis is asking or wondering, how do you get a good edit with Ektar because
Skin tones go orange.
Skin tones seem too orange, and if you correct for that, the background is too cool. All right, Alexis, so first of all, know this. Ektar is the most saturated film that modern film made that I know of. I mean, Agfa Color 50 from like a million years ago, maybe it was more saturated. Maybe Velvia, like a slide film, but who shoots slide film anymore? There's probably like 10 people who know how. I love Velvia. I loved it. But Ektar is super saturated. That means just like a lot of color. So if you don't want really warm, deep colored skin tones, go to Fuji 400H, first of all. Second of all, though, the trick is going to be to get the white balance dialed in. You're doing the right thing. So if your question is, I'm correcting for the skin and the background is too cool, you're already on the right path because you're bringing the white balance down, and that is how you deal with any skin tone that feels too orange. But the second thing is you need to increase the exposure as well. So the more you increase the exposure of an image, any image, using any preset or no preset, it doesn't matter, you're going to decrease the perceived saturation of that image. Okay, so what that means is that if you had a picture of a red balloon and you just took it and it's a raw image on your screen, if you were just to take the exposure and bring it up and bring it up and bring it up, that red balloon would start to look pink because the perceived saturation goes down as you bring the exposure up. And that's another way you can deal with skin tone. So anytime your skin tone is too orange, whether you use our presets, someone else's, or no presets, your two biggest tools are white balance and exposure. And then if you want, you can go into saturation and pull that down, or go to HSL, but that's all taboo because you shouldn't have to do that, I don't think. Let me try to find an example for you. I just wanted to edit this because it's just such a pretty photo. So this is by Crystal Diaz. Here's Ektar. That looks pretty amazing to me. If you're used to a Fuji edit, the skin tones are going to look too orange. It really depends on what you're used to. But I'll show you how you can get that orange down. So you were probably wondering, so if I bring the temperature down to get rid of that orange and the background's too cool, like that, if I go this far, the whole image is just too cool for this film. It's not meant to ever go that far. I would say probably right about here is ideal. If this is too much color for you, for your image, you can try increasing the exposure and doing highlights or all soft. That'll let you like subtract a little bit of that orange. And that looks like a nice edit to me. That looks appropriate for Ektar. If that is still too much for you, then you're not using Ektar wrong. It's just that it's not the right look for you. If I was to go back and do this in Fuji Color Original, there you go. Totally, totally different. Different preset, different film, different look, different aesthetic. In fact, these are the ones I use the most, these two presets, and I like both. It depends on if you're in a colorful mood or a more pastel, subdued mood. Let me find another example here. I just wanted to edit this photo because it's really cool. Oh, okay, we'll go upside down. So this is by Mihaela Gamage. She wanted Fuji Color Push Pro 400H plus 1. We will do that. Let's do Ektar. All right, so that's, I picked this one because I knew it was just going to go super saturated. It's partly because of the way it's shot. Very bright on a bright grass, and also I can tell that the starting white balance is super warm, even before I touch it. So Ektar, it's crazy town, easy to fix. Drop the temperature, drop the exposure. And right about there. And this is a very colorful photo. It looks really cool. We'll do lens correction on. And this is about as much as I can subtract orange from her skin without the whole thing looking really crazy. This green grass is a little bit, extreme, but that is the nature of Ektar. Ektar is the most saturated film. It's just really heavy duty. If that is not the look you want, we'll do Fuji Color Push, because that's what Mihaela wanted. So 400H. If you go to almost any other preset, it's not going to be as saturated. So there's 400H, push 2 stops, bring it down. Seriously, like anything looks less saturated than Ektar. So I don't know if that answers your question or not. Hopefully it points you in the right direction. So yeah, getting that lineup is really important, like between which pack and your subject matter. Yeah. One thing real quick though. Since you already own the Everyday pack, there's this other preset in there called Gold 200, which is amazing. And it is like living in the shadow of Ektar, but I think it would solve your problem. I love it. I have a feeling in my bones it's gonna be real popular this coming year. So let me go up to it again. Oh, just before I go on, Ektar on the left, Fuji 400H, push 1 stop on the right, just so we don't get lost here. Okay, I'm going to change the photo on the right to gold, and you can see 2 looks that you get from the Everyday pack. All right, there's gold. Warm it up just a little bit. There. Totally, totally different look. So Kodak Gold 200 is the film of like my youth. I'm 41 now. So my parents took pictures of me and my brother and sister on Gold 200. It's got gold. I mean, part of the reason I think it's called gold is that it has very golden tones, especially in the skin tones, but it lets shadows fall off to a cooler green. And together it's a really nice combo, as you can see in the photo. So if you have ectar and it's just like, overstimulating the color part of your brain too much, gold. Gold is amazing. And then you've got, hey, why not? Let's put the most famous black and white film of all time in the pack too, and that is Tri-X 400. Super versatile, good for everything. So there you go. I hope that answers your question. Great question. All right, I think that is all the time we have today. Gosh, I wish I could have gotten to every single image, but I'm very, very happy with what people sent in to me. It's fantastic to see what our community is making. It just like blows my mind. Like I remember when we first started, I was like just praying for like just a few really good photos to come in. And now it's like there are so many good photos in the community that there's like 4 people just constantly just picking out photos for different things because we can barely stay on top of it. There's so many good ones. If you go to our website, if you go to our ads, all of our images are from our community. We don't have to like go anywhere and get photos from anywhere else. And we enjoy supporting our community that way, like licensing from our community members. So keep it up, guys. It is amazing, really good stuff. If you're not part of Mastin Labs yet, you don't own anything, or you're considering Mastin Labs, just go to Facebook and type in Mastin Labs community and join, and you'll just get a ton of great information, even if you don't own anything. Even if you want to just stick around and look, you'll see lots of videos on editing, very helpful community members. If you want to see how a preset looks on your photo, you can just drop it in with the Dropbox link, and one of our amazing community members, probably 20 of them, will edit it for you and let you see what it looks like on your image. Because we all believe that you shouldn't have to choose between a beautiful image and a complicated edit. You can have it all. So please join us. And yeah, we'll be back next week with another video. Thanks for joining us.